I'm Janet, and I'm going to be doing a glass etching project, and I just cut my vinyl, and it what I've cut out is so small that it was hard to see where the cut was. So I took my Scrap Perfect pouch that has powder in it and just ran it across the front of it. And now, hopefully, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see where my letters are. So now I can go in and easily weed what I'm going to be etching. Today I'm going to be etching this curved frame that I found at the Dollar Tree. I have seen these in the past at a store I used to work at, actually, a very high end, and they were very expensive and popular, probably in the 80s. So I was surprised to see it for $1.25, but I am going to turn this into a really nice gift. It would be great for Mother's Day. That's appropriate at this time of the year. However, you can use it for whatever you would want. I am going to go ahead and etch right along the bottom here, so not to mess with the glass front here itself, although this would be a nice area to etch as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a squirt of rubbing alcohol on there, and I'm going to grab my cloth and just clean off the area that I want to etch. Okay, and you can hear that is quite squeaky now. All right, so what I am etching on here is Live, Laugh, Love, and you can see how small this is. I weeded this out with a pin, and what I did was to push things back into place, I used the head of the pin. So it is quite small, and I measured it so that it will fit in this little channel right here. So I'm going to move my frame over just a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm going to apply my transfer film, and thankfully that this project is on a see-through glass. So what that means for me is that when I go to lay this into its place, I can actually see it from the back, and I can tell if I'm in the right place. So I don't have to make any additional marks on my frame. I do sometimes use like a Sharpie marker to make marks, and then it'll come right off with rubbing alcohol. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is stuck to the transfer, and you can see, if not, I will show you here in just a second, that I did weed out the centers of some of my letters. They're so small that I weeded out the center of the A, the G. Looks like I have something going on right there. Let me take a look at this side. I think we're going to be okay. So I weeded out the center of the E here, the A, the G, and I kept some of the O, but there was a very small piece there that I couldn't save. And then the center of the E. It's so small that I think it will still be legible. So what I'm going to do is just kind of curve this so I can guess where I want it. And I'm not sticking it down hard. All right, I'm going to turn it over, and now I can see where it's sitting, and I can see that it is not low enough in that channel. And I want to line it up with the edge of the frame, and then have it be somewhat straight in its placement. And I think, let's take a look at that now. I know I'm looking at it backwards, but I think that is going to look good. So I'm going to rub it down, and lifting this up and pushing it up and into that silver spot there, and then I can go over it just to protect it from my etching cream. And I'm going to rub nice and harsh here on the front to make sure that that vinyl is stuck down before I go in and peel off my transfer film. And now I want to make sure that I don't lift any of my vinyl up as I remove this. I had originally thought about putting like my last name and the word family. That would be super nice on here. I wanted to do something a little bit more generic that I thought more people would be interested in seeing. And so using the back of my nail here, I am just making sure that vinyl is down nice and tight. And I can see that there's a little bubble right here and a little net trying to help me out. So I'm just going to push that down and make sure that I have everything in place. And that little spot on the G is bugging me. So I'm going to come in with my needle, see if I can grab that. It's so small, I really don't think once I'm done etching anybody's going to see it. Let's see if I can just pull it off. If not, just try to move it a little bit out of the way. I don't even know if you can see it, but I can. All right, so I'm going to let that sit for a second and see where my air bubbles come from. And I can see that there's some right in here that I need to rub down. So I'm just using my fingernail, going over the letters, making sure I have really nice contact with the edge of the vinyl. The rest doesn't matter. Like this bubble out here doesn't matter because it's not up against the edge of what I'm etching. I just want to make sure that what I'm etching is pushed down nice and tight to the glass. And it looks like it is. Thankfully, I can check the back as well and look to see if I see any bubbles anywhere. And I think we're good to go. So I'm going to get ready to etch and then I'll be right back and show you how to do. All right, so what I am going to use to etch my glass is Etchall etching cream, and I'm going to apply it with a plastic spatula. I'm just going to grab it out of the container and I am just going to tap it. Now it says to apply it thick on the area, and the reason for that is that it's reusable. So when I'm done here, I can actually pick it up and put it back in the jar. Now when it gets exposed to air, it does change color a bit, and that's what you're seeing here is my cream is darkening from what was like a creamy tan. It's getting some brown hue to it, and I am just gently placing this over, being generous with the amount that I'm applying. However, I don't want to work the surface hard in case that my vinyl would lift up. So I'm just tapping it into place, and then I'm going to let it sit there for 15 minutes. And then once I'm done, I will remove it and put it back into the container. So I'm going to set a timer and let this set to etch, and then we'll come back and see how it looks when we're done. All right, so the time has elapsed, and what I'm going to do now is just remove the cream and put it back in the jar because it's reusable. Looks like I'm going to have to clean the outside of my jar a little bit. Might be a project for another day. All right, and then I'm just, because I'm in my studio and I don't have a sink nearby, this is the point where you would take this to the sink and wash it. But since it has a paper insert, I really don't want to submit it to running water. So I'm going to use a baby wipe, and I'm just going to wipe. And you can see that it also starts lifting up the vinyl in small areas. I'm rubbing a little bit generous there. And now I'm just going to peel away my vinyl. And I can already start to see that it is etched. I'm getting that little piece off of there. So I'm going to clean it one more time with my baby wipe, and then come in with a cloth and dry that off. And now we can start to see that those letters are appearing more. I can actually even kind of buff it a little bit. But just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and clean this with a squirt of rubbing alcohol. Now at this point, if you wanted to make your embossing or your etching more pronounced, you could use like a rub and buff type product, or you could just leave it as is. Now I am rubbing a little bit hard here. I am buffing it, and that kind of helps show the etching, if you will. And yeah, it's showing up pretty well on camera from what I can see. So there, that is my etched frame. And as I was sitting and waiting for this, I was thinking, you know, this would be a very inexpensive graduation gift. I mean, you could put the name of the high school and the year that they graduate, and then a picture of graduation in there. I know a lot of students just went to prom recently. You could etch the high school name, prom, and the year on there, and put their photo in there. It would make for a really nice gift. And if you had a lot of them you had to do, this would be a very inexpensive way to make some very memorable, unique gifts for those graduation parties that you need to go to, or to document, you know, the prom that your child has attended. So a lot of options here. You could also do anniversaries, weddings, all different kinds of options here. But yeah, it does etch really nicely. And like I said, I got this at the Dollar Tree, and it was $1.25. So that's something to think about. All of this glass out here is etchable, as well as this center area here. So if you wanted a bigger name, you could definitely put it down here towards the bottom of your picture. If you don't have a cutting machine, or you don't have anything that you can etch, you could actually take the etching cream and just apply it around the outside loosely to it, and you would get a frosted edge, which would give it a unique look from what this is. So a couple different ways to enhance your frame.